All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this interview is brought to you by Burn It Up Coaching and the 21-Day Challenge. And if you're an entrepreneur or a high achiever and you're finding you're stuck, you're spinning your wheels, you're not as motivated as you'd like to be, you feel like you're missing the fire, the passion, the fuel to be able to get to your next level. And that's exactly what the 21-Day Challenge is for. It's there to reignite you over the course of 21 days. You'll have daily accountability and check-ins, weekly deep dive calls to make sure that you're uncovering the limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging patterns that are stopping you from success. And more specifically, you'll gain more happiness, more energy as you dial in your daily routines and get back onto your track of success so that you can be your greatest possible self. So if you're interested in that, send me a message or an email, burnandlearnnow@gmail.com. Be happy to discuss that with you and see if it's a good fit. It is not for everyone. It's super intense. So if you're ready for that intensity and that reignition into your 21-day challenge and achieve your 21-day goal, send me a message. I'd be happy to talk to you. This interview is also brought to you by our iTunes review of the week. And let's see who left that review of the week. It's by Nada Hogan. And Nada says, "Love this podcast. Chris's podcast interviews are so engaging and entertaining. Once I turn it on, I can't stop listening. Great interviews with great guests. You will not be disappointed." Thank you so much, Nada. And if you want to give us a review, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes. That'll take you to our iTunes review page, and you can do it there, or you can search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on iTunes or on Facebook and give us a review there. We appreciate those reviews. We read them, and it's always grateful. I'm always grateful for it to improve our show and be better. So thanks in advance for doing that. Now for the main course of the hour, it's Jeff Schecter and Jack Gibson. We'll start with Jeff. Jeff Schecter, aka Shecky, has had the entrepreneurial bug his entire life. He started his first business right out of college, and over the years has been involved in numerous business ventures. His love for real estate investing began in the 1980s when he rehabbed 5 of his own residencies before the term house hacking even existed. Since those early days of torn up kitchens and bathrooms, he's bought and sold many properties and is an active investor to this day. In addition to investing, he operates a private consulting practice. He thrives on helping people realize their full potential, not just in business and investing, but in all aspects of life. Through an unusual chain of events and business relationship, Shecky met Jack on a consulting call. Very quickly, they realized they had the same interests and passions. Those initial conversations were the seeds of what is now a very successful turnkey venture, High Return Real Estate LLC. And Jack Gibson began his entrepreneurial journey at 19, founded his first company at the ripe old age of 21. Operating a successful nutrition consulting and distribution company, he had built a multi-million-dollar venture before he was old enough to rent a car. That's pretty rad. Soon thereafter, he bought his first home as an investment. 1 quickly became 5, and then the bug hit. He became obsessed with learning everything about real estate investing and soon had over 50 investment properties generating passive income. Today, Jack spends his time mentoring other entrepreneurs, building his real estate investment portfolio, and helping other investors to build a brighter future through the power of turnkey real estate income. Jeff and Jack, you guys ready to rock this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you. You are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thanks for coming on today, taking time out of your schedule and investing and teaching people how to build their real estate portfolio, how to build these passive income streams to share with our audience at Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. So let's dive right into the theme of the day. And today's theme of the day is radical self-expression. So I'm going to ask each of you what that means for you, how you interpret that, how that's played an important role in your life. So we'll start with Jeff. Jeff, how has radical self-expression played a role in your life?
Well, I tend to cuss a lot in our meetings. Let's start there. No, I mean, I've been single my whole life and raised in a very, very conservative environment, and through a lot of self-growth and awareness and pulling away a lot of the old shackles of old belief systems, it took me a long time to figure out that I was not going to be or who my parents and society expected me to be. And because of those very intense shackles, you might say, psychological shackles, there was a gap there between saying what you don't want to be until becoming what you do want to be. And in my case, that was a pretty long gap. I would say it was probably 15 to 20 years of, still being an entrepreneur and floating around, but not really being in a situation where I was really clear on who I was. Wow. And that's I think a lot of us struggle with that. I mean, it's when you just don't know what you don't know. And it's often difficult to be okay with that. And honestly, I'm a late bloomer. I mean, I'm a baby boomer, and I make no bones about it that I don't feel like I really fully came into a sense of who I really was until I got into my 50s. And it was at that point that I started saying, I'm not just only embracing entrepreneurialism, but I can understand that I can go out and affect a lot of other people's lives positively, and that I can make a lot of money in the process, and society can benefit in the process, and it can be win-win-win all the way around. And I have some weird ideas about natural health and spirituality and whatever, and most people think I'm a freaking nut. And it took me a long time just to be comfortable with that. It's like, okay, I'm a freaking nut, it's fine. And because I'm very, at this point, again, it took a long time, but I'm very comfortable in who I am. And so I think it's important for people to just figure that out for themselves and don't worry about what anybody else thinks and says and does. I think when you really sit quiet and listen to that inner voice, you know.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I love how in the beginning your impetus, your drive was just to get away from what you didn't want to be. And so that's what created the results. That's what created success. That's what motivated you and got you up out of bed in the morning. It's like, I don't want to be like that. And then after, let's say 5 decades, you started really coming into who you are and what you stand for and your values. And I think that's so important that you finally got to that point of, well, shoot, I'm already doing all this stuff naturally. Let's dive in. Let's start really being aware of why I'm doing this and knowing what I stand for so that you can go out and impact more people and make that biggest difference possible and live your greatest possible self and greatest possible life. So that's freaking amazing, man. That's really cool. Really cool. So next we'll go to Jack. Jack, how about you, man? What does that mean for you, radical self-expression?
Yeah, I'm glad Shecky went first because I wasn't prepared for that question in any way, shape, or form. So I was going to defer to him, actually. It all worked out.
But now you're up.
Yeah, no, I can only stall for so long. I was thinking back, I was 21. I was a junior in college. I was building my nutrition distribution business. And I had a little tiny office that I'd opened up. I actually had a secretary at the time too. And, all around, going to college classes. And I remember one of my clients, one day he walked in, he said, because he was like 40 and he was taking accounting classes at that time at the same school I was at. He said, why are you doing this? Why are you working so hard and putting all this effort into doing this? And what's driving you? This is definitely not the normal thing that a college student does. You always think okay, the first response that comes out, that's usually the one, right? Yeah. And without thinking about it, just I just don't want to be average. And so for me, radical self-expression has always been just simply fighting against mediocrity, being normal, being average. I can't stand it. The thought of it. It just, sometimes I toss and turn at night thinking, man, I feel like I'm average right now. And, 2 multi-million-dollar companies. And I'm gosh, this isn't going well, So I think it's just, it's a good thing. It's also it's a blessing. It's a motivator. It's also a curse at the same time. Probably pretty much anything that people consider a strength in their life is also probably their biggest weakness as well.
Yeah.
When it's not harnessed and channeled properly. So for me, it's just trying to be a fight against past maybe not failures but past mediocrities. in my life, like I look back and I'm like, man, I just, I'm trying to excel in this because I didn't do all that good in this. So that's how I try to I think that's my self-expression in life. And, I've had to go to counseling because of that too. So, it's not always good.
Right. Well, it's what I hear is like your drive. Both of you are so driven by this. Like, I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to be what, I saw that caused me pain, or that what I saw that wasn't in alignment with me, didn't fulfill me, it didn't resonate with me. So like your direction turned the complete opposite direction, and you created massive results and prosperity and abundance and financial abundance for yourselves, which I think is really, really cool. And everyone is driven by different things, and I believe that the more we understand ourselves, the more we have that self-awareness, then the better we can perform in life, the more we can have happiness and fulfillment in our life. So you two are doing some amazing things in real estate. I want to dive into that just a little bit more for anyone who doesn't know who you are yet. I read your bio, but if you guys want to share what specifically it is that High Return Real Estate does and what you are up to today, just so people can get caught up with who you are, I'd appreciate that.
Well, I'll let the CEO take that one.
Yeah, I'll happily take that one.
Cool.
Essentially, the short answer is we operate a done-for-you service. So as you can imagine, many investors in real estate, the most long-term obvious solution is to own some sort of rental property and something that performs really, really nicely, a really, really great cash cow that they can hold on to for a long time, just to create a nice stream of passive income. What we do is we take care of the entire process for the investor. We go out and find the property, we rehab the property, we rehab it to great standards. We even bring in a third-party inspector to check our work. We give a warranty on it. We professionally manage it. We place a tenant in it. We get it cash flowing. And then, and only then, once all that's done and it's all wrapped up and tied in a nice, pretty little bow, do we then sell it to the investor. Wow. And we also maintain the ongoing management and oversight. So the investor basically doesn't do very much except make the odd decision down the road about, whether they want to do a minor repair or something like that. But for the most part, they just collect checks in an automated way.
That's awesome. Awesome. I love it. Great explanation. And for people who are investors or looking to invest their money, I'm sure that we're going to give them opportunities on how they can find out more about that later. And before we get to there, I want to dive back into the journey. You guys shared a little bit more about how you got to where we are today, but let's go back to the story of the formation of why you have this passion about real estate, and then how you guys came together. So we'll start with how we got to here, how we got into real estate in general. And we'll start with Jack, because I think yours was, started super young. And we can start there, and then we'll go over to Shecky and then hear his story, and then find out how you two came together.
Yeah. So, Robert Kiyosaki, I'm sure you've talked about him before, his books on your show. I mean, very well known. CASHFLOW, Quadrant, probably, in my opinion, even better than Rich Dad Poor Dad, although Rich Dad Poor Dad was a more engaging story.
Right.
But in that, he talks about the different streams of income, and also talks about how it's really one of the strategies, not the only strategy, but he touts this in several of his books, is if he were to start from scratch, what he would do is go out and build a multi-level marketing distributorship and create passive income from that, a very incredible cash cow business. And then take the profits once you've built that up and the excess cash flow, because it's a very free cash flow business. You don't have a lot of capital intensive inventory or anything like that. So take the excess cash and then invest that into real estate. And so now you have two forms of passive income. So that was always the plan. I mean, I read that book 20 years ago, but just timing along the journey, it wasn't always right for me to invest into real estate. Well, about 3 years ago, I said, okay, stocks dropped like a rock. I was invested into oil, and the market really corrected there, and my stock portfolio dropped. And I'm one of the few investors that, for whatever reason, buys high in the stock market and sells low, right? So just my particular strategy. So I said, you know what, I'm tired. I'm so tired of this. I mean, it happened to me when I was just out of college, made a bunch of cash, and that was the 2000 .com, bubble burst. So I'm like, okay, enough's enough. I'm going to try to figure out and learn how to do real estate. So I was looking around, and at that particular moment, was on podcasts, just trying to learn it. And I stumbled upon Turnkey Real Estate investing. And that made sense for me because I didn't know a lot about real estate investing. I thought it was a great way for me to get my start and learn a little bit more like risk-free. Mm-hmm. So I started buying up turnkey properties. And long story short, we bought up in Indianapolis, bought a few there, and just started really getting really excellent returns. So I started sending in lots of friends, family, colleagues, and pretty soon, before I knew it, like I had a business. Wow. Where I had a book of clientele. So then I decided, okay, now I really want to scale this operation. Mm-hmm. So how am I going to do this with limited time, 2 young children? So that was when it hit me, like I need a partner. And so that's when I said, you know what, Shecky knows how to do digital marketing. Seems very systematic and organized. So I brought him in to help scale the company so that we could start reaching more effectively people that I don't know. Like initially, like it was all network. Yeah. You can only scale that so big, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you only know a finite amount of people. Whereas if you really want to scale infinitely, there's billions of people on the planet. Of course, we know a small percentage are going to be investors, but at any rate, that's how we got, that's how the company kind of got started, High Return Real Estate and that whole formation. And, little did we know like how tough of a business this really is. I mean, I think if we, knew what we were getting into, we never would have started the company, because this is not an easy business to do. I mean, a lot of investors may think, oh yeah, it's not that hard. I mean, you're buying a property, we get to buy a property, it's performing, it's leased up. Mm-hmm. But behind the scenes of the 20 steps that have to happen to get the property from dysfunctional, dilapidated to, rehabbed, inspected, quality, performing, tenants in place, managed, good ROI in today's marketplace, there's a lot that has to happen. So that's the value add that High Return Real Estate and Shecky and I add, is all that steps and processes, systems, procedures, mistakes that we've made, costly, very, very costly mistakes on our end, not for our investors, but on our back end processes, right? That cost us a lot of money to get to the point to where we're at today, where we can deliver a product like this, right? So we now have really formed the opinion that, we still to this day undercharge for what we provide and the value that we're serving up. We're very convinced that we're worth everything and then some of the profits that we make.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love how you went through this process of, well, I didn't want to keep doing this investing thing of the stock market, and then you transitioned into real estate and you're like, okay, cool, I'll give it a shot. And then you had friends and family who found interest. And I think that's really cool that when you have people in your network who just raise their hands, or you present an idea to them, they're like, yeah, I'm interested. And you start getting that idea validation. And then you recognize, hey, I want to take this to the next level. And how do I do that? Well, it's to put in systems, it's to put in marketing to be able to reach more people, it's to put in nurturing processes to be able to get people from cold lead to buyers, and then you went to Jeff to be able to accomplish that. So we're going to switch over to Shecky now, and then hear what was your journey like to be able to get into this real estate area with Jack, and what is your side of the story kind of thing.
Well, I had done some flipping, as you read in my bio. Back in the old days, I had done some house hacking, so I was comfortable in that environment. I later, probably, I don't know, it must have been about 2005, 2006. I had a flipping business with another gentleman down in Texas that turned out to be extremely disastrous when the big crash hit. And I was doing some really stupid stuff. I mean, just, things that I would never do today. But subsequent to all that house hacking and then, basically losing my ass in the flipping business, I was living in San Antonio. I moved up to Austin because most people probably know that Austin is kind of a mecca for internet marketers and really an amazing group of entrepreneurs. And I just wanted to be around that energy. A lot of stuff that you teach is Like, hey, who are you hanging out with?
Yep.
And so I wanted to be part of that sort of crowd that was pushing the envelope of digital marketing and being able to bring greater products and services to the world. And I was not so much on the geeky side, being a baby boomer, but I was really curious about the psychology side, being able to market on the internet specifically to people that are in, the right target group. And so anyway, long story even longer, I was working with a buddy of mine that owned a social media company, and we had had a really nice coaching and consulting division. And Jack was one of my favorite clients. He and I had a really nice phone relationship. We had never met in person, but I was helping him with his nutrition company. And we had definitely a respect for each other, just as far as our own, work ethics and attitude and that sort of stuff. And it was 2015, somewhere in there, I had a very large complete knee replacement surgery. And at the time, the guys that were sort of my quote unquote employers, partners were, kind of trying to shoo me out the door, even though I started this extremely profitable division for them. And that's when I realized, like, I need to get back to being completely self-employed. This is only fringe entrepreneurship. This isn't the deep dive.
Right.
And so what I did was I actually just got on my whiteboard in my home office and I just wrote down a few things. And I said, hey, I want to sell a high ticket item. I want to be the best in my space. I want to leverage my consultative selling skills. I want to leverage my digital marketing skills. And oh, by the way, I don't want to work alone. I want to have a business partner. I didn't even say anything about real estate, but it's just, there's something very strong in the power of intention.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote that in my little left-handed chicken scratching in the corner of my board. It was barely legible and it was very small, but somehow it was there in my consciousness. And it was maybe, 7-8 weeks after that, I get a call from Jack and he's like, hey dude, I've been buying these properties in Indianapolis and selling to some friends and family. And I really want to book a call with you and just, brainstorm and get some ideas about how this, I could maybe market this stuff and turn this into a real business. And of course, my immediate answer was, look, there's no charge for the call. You and I have a long history and let's just get on the phone and brainstorm. And we booked out an hour. And I remember that day very, very well because that 1 hour turned into like 3.5. And I remember walking around my apartment just pacing and being almost like sweaty when I got done because it was one of those things where we were just both really in the zone.
Wow. And,
the energy and the brainstorming was just incredible. And there was just some really, really amazing ideas that came out of it. And although I had an inkling that, Jack was maybe interested in partnering with me on that, it just seemed a little bit outlandish at the time. And just as a courtesy, I typed up an email that had, 8-10 bullet points, the main things that we had discussed in that conversation, and just emailed it to him. And the very next day, I got an email back saying basically, like, let's do it. And I'm like, oh, well, let's do what? What the hell are you talking about? Like, let's do this. Let's just turn it into a business. I want you to be my business partner, right? And right when he says that, I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of coming out of left field until I turn my head back to my whiteboard and look at those 5 things that I had put out there a few weeks earlier. Wow. Check, 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 check. I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is really cool. Yeah. Like, this intention stuff kind of works, right? So anyway, that was sort of the seeds. And shortly thereafter, I flew up to Indianapolis and, met the people that he was buying from, which that's a whole nother story, turned out to be like people that we did not want to be buying from and, learned a lot and got kicked in the teeth a bunch of times and whatever. But that was the seeds of how we got started, really just as a sales and marketing company for some other people behind the scenes. And we've since obviously come to an understanding that as investors, we know what our expectations are as far as what a finished product should look like and what's really the best experience for an investor, because we ourselves are our own customers too. And so we set out to build that. And just again, I agree with Jack. Had we known all the trials, tribulations, financial issues, and things that we were going to run into trying to get to this point, to build all of these moving parts from, acquisition to rehab and permits and inspections and, getting them performing nicely and managing them. There's 500 other businesses I could think of that would be much better for us to have ventured into.
Right.
But you know what? We're here, right? And it's working, and we've got a really great team now and really great software, and we've got some things dialed in. I mean, we're not by any means perfect, but we're doing it, and it's getting easier, and now it's getting more fun. And knock on wood, I think many of our bigger issues are mostly in the rear view mirror, and so it's very, very exciting what we've created. But man, it's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah. I hear that you two saw each other as like star players, star jockeys in a race, and you're like, let's get together because we're both powerhouses, we're both rock stars, and with all that passion coming out of the gate of these ideas, you're just like, all right, let's do it. And in the journey of entrepreneurship, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be things that you wouldn't ever expect, but it's all about like what you're learning and who you're becoming in the process. And these lessons now will be able to equip you for, the rest of your life. So I think it's awesome that you're breaking through it, you're getting through it no matter what it takes. And like you said, like now you're on the other side of that steep hill that you had to go up to be able to get to this model that's effective and being able to rock and produce people that return on investment and give you guys that profit that you're looking for as well. So one of the things that we want to cover in this interview is these multiple streams of income, like passive income. And I just want to hear what your thoughts are on passive, multiple streams of passive income and why you feel that that's important. And we'll start with that. And then I want to get into, who's it for? Who really can get into starting these multiple streams of income? Is it only for, millionaires and deca millionaires, or can people start earlier? So let's start off with the fundamental of why multiple streams of passive income.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly a passion of mine. I mean, I think back, like, do I really love real estate? No, I can't really say that I do. I mean, like the house doesn't really give me any type of like, they never say thank you. There's no emotional attachment. Like I don't care. They don't care, right? Tenants don't really ever say thank you. Investors rarely say thank you, right? They're more in terms of when it's not going perfectly, then we get to hear from them. Otherwise, no news is about as good of a thanks as we get. So my thought is like, what do I love? I love passive income. I just love it, all forms. Yeah. And, that's my entire other, business model. Multi-level marketing, network marketing is built around the concept of creating an ongoing stream of long-term passive income. So I think, personally, I mean, I've got two sources of passive income. Maybe there's two or three other really small ones, but two main ones, right? Which is my primary business in nutrition, and then high return real estate is more of that's an active income source, right? So when you buy, fix, and flip a property, that's not passive income. That's called hard work. Right. So, but when you rent out property, obviously I have my own portfolio of properties that I rent out. That's my other passive income stream. So I think, in today's day and age, I mean, look, the economy is getting disrupted at a bigger and bigger pace as we move forward, and the years keep, churning on. You look back and just think about Blockbuster. If you would have told them in the boardroom in 2008 or something, I don't know exactly the year, that in 2012 your company will cease to exist, and it was doing like, billions of dollars in business. And everybody in the boardroom would have laughed and been like, that's great. We're a multi-billion-dollar company. We're going nowhere, right? But this little startup called Netflix, $45 million that Blockbuster could have purchased, right, for $45 million, which they declined. They didn't see the vision for it. Totally disrupted. Boom, they're gone. Now, with that, billions of dollars, a billion-dollar company goes, and with that, hundreds of thousands of jobs go, right? So that's only going to escalate as we go through the next decade, and then 2 decades from now, it's going to be 10 times bigger disruption than it is today as the pace of technology and all of that changes. So do you want to be relying upon one source of income, whether it's $50,000 a year or $500,000 a year from one company, of which is earned income? Meaning if you don't show up for work or they let you go, boom, income disappears, right? Do you want to rely upon that in today's marketplace? 50 years ago, probably no problem.
Right.
Today, big problem.
Yeah.
So I think now more than ever, just because of the pace of change, I mean, having passive income that you can rely upon, not only for protection for your family, but to enjoy life. You know, I look back like the last month, you know, because of having passive income, you know, we were able to, you know, go to family vacation. We were able to rent a cottage on a lake, hang out with our kids. Shecky and I, he got to come up. We went out fishing, you know, all kinds of like cool stuff, jet ski and all that stuff, lifestyle, right, that we want to have. You're able to do that mostly because of passive income. So I think that that's kind of like my thought is like, I love lifestyle. I love to work hard. I love to grow businesses. I don't have any aversion to work. I really enjoy it, but I want to do it on my terms, and I want to do it the way and create the life that I want to live versus being dictated by somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything to add to that, Shecky?
Only that my take on it is a little bit different. For me, maybe just being the, you know, rebel that I am from breaking out of, you know, an extremely structured upbringing. I feel like I'm psychologically unemployable. This is one of the things that I know about myself. And like Jack, I'm not afraid of hard work. You know, there's many days, Jack knows this, I put in 15, 16, even sometimes 18-hour days. There's other days I put in 2 or 3 hours, and that's okay too. So I'm not afraid of the hard work, but you know, just to go and do the same things every day and have a boss tell me what to do, like I would die. And any time that I've been, you know, even in those situations, even in sales jobs where you have a lot of flexibility in sales jobs, even in those environments, I did not operate well with company politics. And so I come at it from a standpoint like, I have to have some sort of passive income because there's no way I'm ever going to have a job that's going to be meaningful. Because either nobody's going to hire me or I'm not going to allow myself to be hired. It's not going to work. Right. So I'm all for passive income that way too, because you know it's kind of like the first question you asked me. It allows you to be you.
Yeah, it gives you that freedom.
Yeah, very difficult to do that if you've got a 40 or more hour a week job where everybody's got certain expectations about your behavior, your performance, all that other kind of stuff within that framework.
Yeah. There's no I don't want to say there's no self-expression, but the self-expression is most likely going to be limited. The freedom, the time freedom, the money freedom, the ability to earn as much as you want is going to be limited in that 9-to-5 scenario. So if you want to be the creator of your reality, then it's important to start looking for these opportunities where you can build a portfolio of income streams so that you can do what you want when you want. And I think the big point that I heard from both of you is that it's not like you got to pay your dues. No matter what it is, you're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to put in the work up front, working, 14, 16, 18-hour days sometimes. And at times, you're going to be able to reap the rewards of that fully, going on vacations, being able to work 2, 4, 6 hours a day, doing the things that you love. So I think that freedom is really, really cool. So how do people get started with choosing the right passive income stream for them? How do they get started in the mindset? I think we talked about CASHFLOW Quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki. That'd be a great place to start. What else can people do to start moving in that direction, or if they're already doing it, to take it to the next level?
Jack, you want to take that one?
Well, I think there's a lot of different materials out there. I mean, look, this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you got a 12-hour Facebook marathon where people can plug in and get for free. They can get all these different perspectives from, entrepreneurs and success, people that have had success in all different kinds of walks of life. Like, I think it just comes down to a desire to like personally grow and to, have hunger for more, and not, again, it kind of goes back to what I said before. It's like, are you okay with mediocrity? And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I don't look down on that with other people. It's just not the way I've decided to play the game of life. And so it's what is your decision in terms of how do you want to play this game called life, and at what level do you want to play it?
But I'm gonna pause you real quick, because I think there's a powerful distinction to make. It's that, you're not judging other people for doing what they're going to do. They're going to live their life either way. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, you're at the point where you get disgusted by mediocrity in your own life. You get disgusted by the lack of like really truly living to your greatest possible self and that potential. So your values, like how your values are situated in your mind and in your life, is when you're not producing, when you're not being fulfilled and self-expressed and living your greatest life, then you're like, this sucks. This is no way. That's not me. That is not me. And that's the decision that you made. So I think something that's important is there's like a violence in that decision. There's a violence in cutting off any possibility of being mediocre, because anytime you're in that, you're like, ugh, this sucks. I don't want to be here. And then you get back into the high production, high value activities that take you to where you want to go. Would you say that that's correct?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes I look back and, I'm thinking, wow, the guy, I have friends and that, I'd say more acquaintances, not close friends, because I'm pretty guarded with who I let into the inner circle. Right. But I have friends, acquaintances that, they're in the bowling league on Tuesday night, I'm like, sometimes I'm jealous that they can like mentally check out on a Tuesday night, go bowl, have some beers, just relax. Like, I personally can't do it, because I'd be at bowling the whole time thinking about making my next sale.
Business, yep.
Yeah, who do I need to like meet?
Yeah.
I'd be at bowling, not relaxing. I'd be thinking about, okay, is there anybody here I can network with that I can help business together with? You know what I mean? Like, where's my next deal? So I do part of me envies that crowd that can do that. But for me, on the flip side of that, however, is being able to design and create an extraordinary life.
Yeah.
I can wake up on a Sunday morning, check StubHub, and see that the Cubs Indians World Series tickets just dropped down to $4,000. They were at $8,000. Now they're at $4,000. Okay, I'm going to take the train in and go to the game. Right. So that's the advantage that I have that that they don't, is that I can go do extraordinary things but there's a price to pay for that. Right. And that's called, hard work, sacrificing, and not, just choosing not to be a part of that particular, mode of thinking or that particular crowd. Again, nothing, like you said, and not looking down upon them. But, I think about getting around people that have played the game at a higher level than what you are. Like, one of the podcasts I really love is Self-Made Man, Mike Dillard. He, and oftentimes the guys that are on there, or the women that are on there, $100 million companies that they've built. And I think to myself, I'm like, wow, like, who do I have to become? Who do I need to meet? How do I need to develop and grow myself and my thinking, my skills, so that I can grow to $100 million company? So that, just getting around constantly people that are playing the game at a bigger level, I think is so important for all of us, because like they say, you're gonna average the income of the 5 people that are closest to you. So whether they're close to you in a podcast or in a book, or people that you just let into your life that you're around all the time, like, you can decide who it is that you want to be around and how you want to formulate that environment surrounding you, so that you can escalate your mindset in the way that you're going to play the game.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it's like getting around the people who are doing things that you like, who are having the life experiences that you want, and usually you can ask them questions saying, how did you do this? What's the source of your effectiveness? What's the source of your wealth? And they'll tell you. So it's like I think it's not so much about, it could be about the vehicle. It could be about, well, what's the passive income stream? How did you do it? But I think it's more about who do we resonate with, and how can we learn from them? How can we find mentors, teachers, coaches, leaders to surround ourselves with that have values that are similar to us, that are creating a lifestyle that we desire, and then just do what they do, say what they say, and then we'll get what they have if that's something that we aspire to.
Absolutely. Well
Beautiful.
said.
Beautiful. Okay, so Shecky, how about you, man? What would you recommend for people getting started on their journey of creating passive income streams?
Well, I just wanted to, first of all, put an asterisk on what Jack said, because I just thought it was beautiful. And one of the things that I would tell people not to do is fall into this trap. So you talked about these people that go to the bowling league, and let's just use that as an example. What I find really interesting is that we live with people always sort of spewing a certain philosophy with terms like everything in moderation. So in other words, it's okay to eat, like I'm pretty health conscious. Hey, Shecky, it's okay to eat that junk food. Now I know if I eat it, then it's not going to serve me. And the next day it's going to be an extra pound, and it's going to be brain fog and all this other stuff. But because the term everything in moderation has been said so often, and it's part of our normal vernacular, it's accepted. It's accepted as wisdom. And I think that's a very, very big danger. And, these people that just want to, chill and watch Netflix, and there's nothing wrong inherently with chilling and watching Netflix. But I feel like, Jack, it's like, it's very rare that I can do that, because I just feel like I'm missing out on accomplishing something else. And so there's so much in the power of association. And when you really, this is one of the things that's great about, your podcast, and the things that, sort of not just the information, but the energy that you're putting out there, is you're attracting and getting to be with a certain quality of person. And it's just so easy to get dragged down into average and mediocrity. There's just so much of it. And when you really think about the people that think like the way that we do, and the people that we want to associate with, this is a very, very tiny percentage of the population. Tiny. Now, we maybe think it's bigger because we're associated with them on social media, and, maybe they're on our, in our cell phone, we've got their number saved and we can reach out to them. But you really have to work hard at maintaining those associations. Thankfully, the social media tools that are available make it easier to do it nowadays than ever before. But again, how do you be heard above the noise? That's a whole nother conversation, right? Yeah. So I think that's number one, is avoiding the things that you don't want to be around, or don't be poisoned by what seems to be normal. That's the first step. The second step is really just taking the first step and just going like, I think there's a lot of people that are, they're living in fear. I can't do this, whatever. I mean, it's like, how, I don't even remember what the exact phrase is, but, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
Yep.
And, when I look back at some of the crap that Jack and I have been through to get to this day, it all started with one step. It started with one phone call. And it's like, all right, let's try it. Let's put it together. Let's see what happens. And we just, every time we had a struggle, whatever, we just figured it out and took the next step. And I'm sure there's going to be more, and we'll take more steps. But the thing is just to be in movement, I think is really, really important. And don't accept, you don't have to accept mediocrity. I mean, Tony Robbins, who I have a lot of respect for, talks a lot about expectations, and basically, you're going to get in life really what you're willing to accept.
Yeah.
If you get to a point where you're so ridiculously uncomfortable, like Jack said it so eloquently, like, I just can't, I'm not judging other people, but I just can't accept that mediocrity. And if you can get yourself into that psychological state where you're just like, hey, I can't accept it. If you are accepting it, just recognize that's cool. It's going to be pizzas and Netflix probably the rest of your life, and you're never going to go on good vacations, and you're never going to really live and be able to chase all those dreams. But if you can get yourself to a point psychologically where that is just, God damn it, that's just not acceptable, and light a fire under your ass, you'll take that first step.
Yeah. And I think I heard someone say the other day, so many people are afraid of being seen, starting small. Like, people are so afraid of just the first step not being enough, messing up, or starting it with humble beginnings, and they would rather like make millions of dollars, day one or week one. And if they're not doing that, then it's not worth it to them. And I think that like you said, that first step, going to the meetup, having a call with someone who you look up to, or a mentor, or writing, even just writing a message, like you said, with social media these days, it's so easy to connect with people, and the barrier of entry with these different groups and associations and people in general is so low. And it's all about just consistently showing up and saying, hey, what can I do? Where can I get started? Asking people like, you, Jeff, and Jack, how do I get started? How do I take that next step? And that's what I'm grateful to be providing here for our listeners, to be able to know, hey, what's their opinion? What's their insight on how to create multiple streams of income, on how to be their greatest possible self? Because there's someone out there who may resonate with me, but may not resonate with you, and vice versa. There's someone out there who may not resonate with me, but will totally resonate with you and will want to take that next step with you. So I'm just grateful to be that connector and have people find out about you, because everybody's going to resonate with someone else. So I love that we're having this discussion, and especially talking about what we tolerate. We get what we tolerate. Yeah, go for it.
Well, and I also don't think that I specifically answered your question, so I do want to talk about the practical side of it too. It's like, what would you do, right? Well, look at my business partner. I mean, guy out of college started a fantastic multi-level marketing nutritional distributorship. I mean, MLM, network marketing, whatever you want to call it, is a great way to start generating some additional income over and above a day job. That said, there are millions of other ways. I can tell you, as a baby boomer, I was an entrepreneur, BI, before internet, right? Where everything was extremely costly to get started.
Yeah.
Right. I was on another podcast yesterday, and we were talking about this, and you look at the tools that are available now. Like, you can start a Facebook page and be available to millions of people. And, we're all just so interconnected, and you can sell a product on Amazon right now without ever leaving your easy chair. You can have one service that sources the product for you in China. You can have it warehoused by Amazon. It can be sold on it. All you got to learn is a little bit of search engine optimization on the Amazon selling platform. So there's no excuses anymore. The barrier to entry that people have, it's to a certain extent, the internet's leveled the playing field. Like, you want to go out there and make some extra cash, and like to do stuff that we're doing, like, some of our properties started $46,000, $47,000. Like, it's not expensive to buy your first property from, the right people in the right place, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't have that, it doesn't take much to get there. That's what I'm saying. It's not a lot of cash, and you can buy that property and hold on to it for 3-4 months. After it's seasoned a little bit, you can go out and refinance a big chunk of that purchase, take a little bit more money, and buy another one. And very quickly, you can ramp up to where you actually have an empire. And it's very, very doable, like, for the average person. Sure, do we deal with people that obviously are well-heeled? Of course we do. But a lot of our customers are also just people that are regular people that just are ambitious, and they're not wanting to accept mediocrity. And that's probably the best part about working with those people. It's like, hey, we're all of that similar mindset. But from a practical level, there are hundreds of things you can do. I mean, start Googling some of the ideas that you have, and you spend 3 days just figuring it out. And the last thing I want to say is really just an asterisk to what you said about people being worried about coming out of the gate small. And to those people, I would say nobody gives a shit. Pardon my French, but they just don't. Like, it doesn't freaking matter, right? Like, if you think about all the things that flow through your news feed and all the messages that you get in a day, there's something like 30,000 messages. And if one of your good buddies starts a business and screws up, how much attention are you really giving to that? If you're a really, really good guy, you may call him and go, hey man, I'm sorry this happened. What's the next step?
Yeah.
But nobody gives a shit. Right? In fact, to a certain extent, what I'm noticing now on social media is this almost over bit of authenticity. People baring their souls, so much so that it's freaking nauseating.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I get it. You know, you went through all these struggles, whatever, but they're all doing it for the sake of looking authentic, which is fantastic. And that's great. I'm not downgrading those people either. But my point is that we all know everybody's going to have trouble. We're freaking human beings. It's part of the human experience. So just get over it and move on.
I love it. I love it. So we're beginning to wrap up now, and we want to hear the final pieces of parting wisdom from both of you. We'll start with Jack. What is the thing you feel our audience most needs to hear, if you want to recap what we've already shared, or anything else that you feel like we didn't get to?
Sure. So, if we really boil down like what we were here to talk about, right, was passive income, creating streams of passive income. So I always go back to what Jim Rohn, one of my primary mentors, got to meet him actually several times, face to face. He was the primary business coach, speaker for our company. And he said, if you wish to be wealthy, study wealth. If you wish to be happy, study happiness. So he never said this, but it falls right in line with what he said. If you wish to have passive income, study passive income, right? Like if you want it, then you got to learn about it, right? Like I wanted to have real estate portfolio and have passive income from real estate. So what did I do? I went out and studied real estate, 100 hours in the gym, podcast after podcast, every morning for 100 straight days at the gym, hour workout, hour worth of podcasting on real estate, read books, all the things, just devoured it. So I learned it and understood it. Same goes for passive income. There's plenty of resources out there that you can learn and study it. And that's how you get started, honestly. And I don't think most people are going to want to hear this that don't have passive income, but like my first passive income check was $14.90. It's not going to be big. You're not going to start off and just crush it with probably, in all likelihood. Now, there's always exceptions to the norm, right? So there's 100 people that are going to start their journey to create passive income, or one or two is going to figure out how to crush it and get $1,000, passive income checks right at the gate, right? But we know that is the exception and not the norm. So you're going to have to start off like just small and just keep growing and building up. And, look, it's not going to be easy to get to, $10,000 a month in passive income, which is what most people tell me that that's where they want to be. And I think that's a great goal because, right, you can live a great life in America with $10,000 a month passive income. It's not like extraordinary, but it's good. So that's going to take a lot of effort and mistakes, and you're gonna take 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's going to be this journey that you're going to have to take of personal growth, professional growth to be able to get to that point. But I think, my opinion, it's worth it. At the end of the day, it's worth it. So figure out how you can leverage your current talents, resources, skills to start creating some passive income. But again, first you're going to have to learn it before you do anything.
Yeah, 100%. And what the quote that comes to mind is like, if you try to live an easy life is going to be hard. If you live a hard life, and do what's hard, you're willing to do what's difficult up front, you're going to have an easy life later on. So it's like, which do you choose? You're going to have one of two pains, right? The pain of discipline or the pain of regret.
Perfect. That's right.
Yeah.
Right there too.
Yeah, I love Jim Rohn. I love him. So Shecky, how about you, man? Final words of wisdom.
My final words of wisdom, and I try to live by this: execution trumps ideas every time.
Yeah.
So we live in America where everybody's looking for that next great idea. Who's going to be the great startup? Who's going to have that $1 million idea, that new technology? And nothing wrong with that. Great, go for it. But your success is going to come from execution, not from your ideas. You could have the world's greatest idea, it's going to change humanity. Without proper execution, you're going to go nowhere. You could have a really Let me look at our business. We have a pretty average idea, let's face it. I mean, we didn't go out and reinvent the wheel. We just make really good properties available to investors that perform. It's a lot of moving parts, but it's not rocket science. It's a really, really average idea, well executed. And that is, so whatever you decide to go out and do, listeners, just remember that your focus needs to be on the execution, on the day-to-day, getting shit done, making the mistakes, failing forward, all that other kind of stuff, than worrying about whether you've got the next great business idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Love it. So for anyone who wants to continue their journey with you, because you guys are sharing some incredible wisdom, you got big things brewing for you, how do they stay connected, and what do we want them to do next?
Well, they drive up to Michigan and camp out on Jack's. Oh, no, never mind. Go to the internet, open your browser, and go to highreturnrealestate.com. It's that all of our properties are there, all the way we do things, all of our philosophies, how to get in touch with us. It's all there. So just like it sounds, just like it's spelled, highreturnrealestate.com.
Yeah, we have podcasts as well, High Return Real Estate Show, that they can subscribe to right there on the website.
Yeah.
They can contact us. They can fill out a form, book a call with Nicole, our head of investor relations, and she can kind of go through a little bit more, answer questions. So yeah, everything's right there. Hit the site.
Awesome. Awesome. You two are rock stars. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for giving back. Thank you for living a life that is not just about living, but about leaving a legacy, making an impact, being fulfilled, and making that difference. And thank you for coming on our show today to share with our listeners and our audience. And you guys have the best week ever.
Yeah, and Chris, kudos to you on what you're doing, man. You're really you're up to some big things at a looks like a young age. I don't know how old you are. You're
27.
Are you over 30? You're not even over 30. Okay, I thought so. So hey, man, that's pretty cool. I think at age 27 that you're putting together this kind of content for people, like the value that you're adding. 10 times down the road, you're going to be so blessed. So just keep doing what you're doing, brother. You're doing good.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, Jack. We're super appreciative. I mean, you thank us, but we have a lot of thanks to you for obviously allowing us to come on the show and for doing what you're doing, and just to bring all these great people together and bring the energy that you bring and the value that you bring to the world. It's freaking awesome, dude. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. This is just the beginning, guys. Appreciate you, and let's keep rocking it. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
Take care.